back to iReport University and lesson 4, in which we're going to explore report groups as a way to display your data more customizedly, I guess we'll say, on the screen. So for an example, I pulled up the sales order tracking report right here, and you notice that we've got kind of two levels of data that repeats. First, we have the sales orders. So here's 122, here's 178. And if there were more that we happen to be tracking, if we open up the state range, for example, then there would be more sales orders as it went down. But within each sales order, you also notice that there are the actual items on the order. So they're nested data. And you know that the detail band can take data and just repeat it endlessly as long as there's more data to display. But in this case, we want to group it. So repeat the sales order items, but only within each sales order, and then start over with the new sales order. And report groups are the way to do this. It's a great way to do this. Let's take a look at what this looks like in iReport. So you notice that in the query, we have some sales order level data, and then we also have some sales order item level data. So it turns out all these fields that we need. And then the sales order item level data shows up here on the detail band. And we could even add a print when, like we could create a parameter called show details and put that print when here. So if you check it, you see the item data. And if you uncheck it, it only shows the order data because it hides this detail band. So that would be easy to do. And then this sales order level stuff, they put this in this group header. So we created a group, we named it SO group, and it gets a header and a footer, even though we're not really using the footer. There's no data there, but it's there if you need it. And that's where we do it. And that's how you nest repeated data like this. Let's take a look at another report which uses groups in an even more in-depth way. And for this one, we're going to go to the sales order summary. So let me bring that up on screen, and notice if we click modify report, we do have one of those show SO details parameters, just like I mentioned. And I click this, it's going to expand and show the band that has all of the item details. So let's take a look at that one here in iReport. And this report is considerably more complex. Notice it has 3 different detail bands, and each one has different print whens regarding when they show up. So for example, detail 1 says show up when show SO details is not selected. We've got that not bang right there. So that's obviously not the one we want. Detail 2. Okay, so that one shows up when show SO details is checked. So let's take a look at that. In fact, we'll just click into table 2 here and click on something and see how it's built. First, we're going to click on this group by. So in the modifier report, you have these options: group by location group, or class, salesperson, ship to state. So you can organize all this data, the top level nesting, by any one of these options that you want. And currently we've got it by location group. So there's the SLC location group. Here are all the sales orders within the date range that had that location group. So there's group by, there's the top level, and there it is. And they named this group by group header. You can name it anything you want, but that makes sense, right? So when you select location group, it's location group. When you select ship to state, it's ship to state. And then there's another group, another report group. This is the sales order group. So here's this level right there where we see the sales order and the customer. And then to jump down to the actual sales order items, there's another group, the SO item group. And notice we put this in the header. And if you recall from the last video, you can put things in group headers and footers because they will expand if the data expands. And also they will repeat, as long as you have results to display. So it doesn't even use the detail band in this case. If we open this up, you see, we've got columns there, but they're all empty. There's nothing inside. So you're also noticing probably that this group bio is not just on the page, but they actually added groups to a table. So you could just, if you want to add a report group to a table, just right click on the table itself and say add column group. And it will add yet another one that you can nest within like that. But let's not fool around with something quite so complex. Let's go back to our very simple report and let's add our very own group here so we can walk through the process and see how this is done. So if you remember right now, all this has is open sales orders. Let's say we want to see the items being sold on these sales orders. So let's add that in. So you can do this in any order you like, but let's start with the query and let's add SO item product num and SO item quantity to fulfill. How's that? And of course, let's join our SO item. And then we'll go add these fields. I could click read fields, or I can come and manually add them like so. This one's a double. And now we've got the fields ready. Let's add ourselves a report group. And we want to group this, remember, by the SO. So we'll just name that SO num. And we'll select SO num because that's the main grouping. And then within that, we'll show all the individual items. Sure, we'll take a group header and footer, finish, and there it is. All right, so first let's move these things are SO level things. So let's move those up into that group header. And let's just copy some of these and we'll put in our product and quantity. So here, I could do it as quickly as just selecting here and saying product num, or I could come over to the properties and open this up and actually select it from the list. For this one, we'll make that quantity to fulfill. And we also want to add, let's see if we have that variable quantity decimal. Good. If we didn't have this variable here, I would go find it from another report and copy it and then paste it into my variables list so I can select it. And that'll put a nice decimal finish on there. And we're not using the footer right now, so I'm going to close that up most of the way. And let's see how that looks. And that doesn't quite look right, does it? B201, that's 10 of them for every order. Let's take a look at some of these. It's got 10 B201s, but then some F201s. So obviously the data that we're spitting into this report is not coming through correctly. Oh, here it is. It's a typo. You know what? These are the worst kind of things to track down because your logic is all correct. And so sometimes if it seems like it should be working, you're probably right. It should be, and there's a typo. I joined SO item to itself. That doesn't work. I want to join it to SO. This is why you should never make training videos when you're hungry. While we're at it, also let's order by SO num. Make those a little bit nicer, easier to read. And let's see how that looks. Much better. So we've got each sales order and the individual items on those orders. I'm sure you could align those, maybe add some headers or something, make that look much nicer. But what we're going to do next is we're going to add a variable. We're going to count up the total number of items on an order, and just teach you one more useful thing. So you already know we have variables to help with layout, like to put the $sign in the decimals and everything. Let's create a new variable which shows off some of the functionality. Total item count. This will be a double because we may have some decimals. We're going to sum this. We're not going to sum it for the whole report. We're going to sum it just per group because we want to start over with every sales order. So we'll choose group, and since we only have one report group, it automatically selected that group for me. We're not going to increment it beyond that, and we're going to tell it what we want to count. We want to count quantity to fulfill. Okay, so now we have our new total. Let's throw that in the group footer. We'll put it right below, and in this case, let's add a little something to make it look nicer. I'll make these aligned just in case somebody wants to open this in Excel so that the columns line up a little bit better. Name it total pieces. Line that to the right. And we'll make this bold and center that. And let's also do we'll do a middle vertical line on each of those just to move that down a little bit. And since we don't need that horizontal rule or that pattern, that border underneath it, let's move that to the top instead. And we'll turn it gray to just distinguish it from, oops, I hadn't turned that one off yet. I only want to do this on the top. And I could have selected these both at the same time and done them both at once. Half point gray rule border above. And let's not waste too much space in between each sales order. So I'll snug that up. And now you see that underneath each sales order, we have a total of, in this case, 21, 5, 10, 3, etc. pieces there. So not the prettiest report, but functional if that's what you need. And now you know how to do this. So go ahead and give it a shot and create your own report groups, and really adds a good chunk of functionality to your iReport reports. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your day.